Where's my pen gone? Okay, hi guys, welcome everyone. So, welcome to another incredible, fun, YJP, dynamic, engaging, uplifting workshop. It's a time when we all truly need to be uplifted. It's a challenging time, confronting time. Brian and I was thinking, do we postpone this? But then we thought, no, we don't postpone it because life, not God forbid, moves on that we don't recognize. But life is that we're strong, we're resilient, and we don't bow to pressure when someone else tries to impose and alter our life. That's the point. So we've got tonight two incredible, dynamic, wonderful speakers. Both of them are not new to the YGP scene. Okay, Adir actually, we had him do it with Catch, with W. Leibovich, probably about 3 or 4 years ago. Do you remember? Yeah, we had a wonderful workshop at Catch, which was wonderful. Sorry?
I'm not going to forget that.
Okay.
Question one, Gabby wanted to do both roles simultaneously.
Yeah.
He only wants to answer his own questions, Gabby. That's a challenge.
That is true. Okay, and then Adam has been no stranger to us, but we've done virtually, but also we had at Friday night dinner probably about 2 years ago also, we had a lovely Friday night dinner in Naga, and we had Adir come talk to us. So two wonderful YGP members, even though they're young, and they always young at heart. That's it. There you go. You're part of it. So welcome, guys. I want to thank Brian. Where's Brian? Over there, for his ongoing hard work and commitment. And it's incredible. The format of tonight, I'll just ask 1 or 2 questions, but it's not me moderating. It's these two wonderful guys who think they're contrary to one another, and they've got this, incredible podcast that they like to challenge, but I think they actually complement one another. So I think you should change your name from the Contrarians to Complementary. How is that?
Well, the problem is when two people are contrarian, they sound like mainstream. It's only everybody else that disagrees with our views. We agree with one another's views sometimes. Adam is a bit slight extremist. If you listen to the podcast, you'll know he likes to hang out at plus and minus 3 standard deviations on everything, whereas I try to fill a bit more of the middle space. But yes, I think we're contrarians relative to the rest of the population. We'll see in this room how much people disagree with what we've got to say.
So let's start right away. How about we all talk about the elevator pitch, that if you're with a CEO, you're going up a lift and you've got 30 seconds to sell what you do and to get an investor. We're turning the tables on you. There might be a guy that wants to invest in one of your companies right over here. So maybe in 30 seconds or a minute, each one of you just maybe give us your elevator pitch about who you are. You can take more than 30 seconds. Spend a few minutes, who you are, what you do, before we actually start. And either one of you can go first.
I've got no elevator. What's my elevator pitch? I'm Adir. I was a doctor. Then I launched some startups. They went okay. Then I invested in some startups. They went okay. And now I'm mostly outspoken about issues around business and Israel and a variety of other things. And if I have to ask people for investment, things have gone very badly very quickly. And so mostly I hear elevator pitches. I think I think you're going to do a better job than I am at the elevator pitch. Well, you don't ask for money anymore either. You're a cash machine. You actually run a cash machine. You should be asking him for money.
Oh, good. Done.
I'll give that a 3 out of 10.
5 out of 10.
Oh, that's fantastic. You've made me feel fantastic about myself. All my insecurities are cured with a 5 out of 10.
Better than 3. I'm Adam. I was a lawyer briefly before I started running a backpacker apartments business. Very glamorous job that was, and I'm very happy. And then we started a corporate apartments business. And then we started a couple of online businesses. First was a daily deals business called deals.com.au. It was originally actually called Zoobon. And then we got sued by Gabby and Nezzy, who and they were getting sued by Groupon. So Groupon was Scoobon, Scoobon was Zoobon, and then we all settled, and our shareholders and Gabby's on our board.
Now everyone's as friendly as Jews.
We are as friendly as Gabby's never that happy, but always recommend it. And then we started a takeaway food ordering business called My Table that was frankly pretty terrible, and we sold it to Gabby and Nezzy, and they sold the menu log, and they sold Just Eat for almost $1 billion, so we got the world's most...
Oh, you've got to pay out from...
You've got to pay out.
Your piece of crap got to pay out from that transaction.
Piece of crap's been generous. It was the worst. It was literally the worst it was such a bit, it was one of the businesses where it cost us to shut down and we got like 20 million bucks for it, so that was a good result.
Wow.
But, yeah, certainly not due to skill.
What was Gabby's business called that he sold?
Eat Now.
Is this being recorded? We've got to be careful
Yeah.
what we say about Gabby. I mean, that was also a piece of crap, by the way. It wasn't making money, was it?
No.
Alright. That's a great start.
Yeah. And then we started a business called Luxury Escapes from the
That makes money.
from the business of Deals.com, which was Deals.com was a local experiences business. There were some flaws in that business model, so we pivoted to travel, which was the best part of that business. Started as what we call a flash sales travel business. We sold these super great deals to places like Bali, so standing on the phone and sold these great deals to Bali and Thailand. And then during COVID, we expanded the business to become more of what we call a marketplace or an OTA or online travel agent. So we sell now 20,000 things from hotel resorts to experiences to tours to villas to cruises and all sorts of stuff. And we're based upstairs. And I have a podcast with this guy.
Yeah, that's definitely the highlight of the week every week.
I said, like you said a couple of weeks ago, you go, this is the highlight of my week. So it's definitely the highlight of my week. My wife goes, that's the highlight of your week? And I said, yeah. She goes, and my wife's a big fan of Adir, and she goes, that's the highlight of mine as well.
So guys, I've got a question for you. You're both in the startup space. You're both doing incredible things. Israel is known as a startup nation, and obviously now Israel is in the most challenging time. And all of our prayers are with Israel, and we know they're going to succeed. And we pray for the Chayalim, for the holy soldiers that are defending our country, and we thank them. But what I want to know in terms of, it's obviously secondary to what's going on in Israel, so we're not there implying that this is on par with anything else in the true sense of it, but one of the impacts, if you like, of going to war is I just heard a person that said, I've been a lawyer for 20 years in the startup space and I've just left everything and just run off to the front lines. So is that having a ripple effect on you guys? Are you seeing anything? What will that do globally in terms of the businesses that have essentially not functioned for the last month?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a good question. So I know some startup CEOs that are currently, I'm not sure if they're in Gaza or not, but they're in the general region of Gaza instead of running their startups. Definitely the Israeli economy is suffering severely. You can't call up 360,000 people and continue to have strong economy and economic growth, but the country has recovered after every previous war economically, and so presumably it'll be back to business as usual afterwards. I mean, my sentiment about the broader conflict is this. There's this line, I think it's attributed to Woody Allen, which is just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you. It's a great line, right? And so I think that is true. Like, I think, there was this, did you see that quote? Like, Jim Gaffigan, the comedian? You don't know that comedian? No. I don't know.
I'm less cultured.
No, well, I mean, he's not the most cultured guy, to be fair. It's a pretty, do you love comedy or you don't love comedy?
Like Seinfeld.
We've got a lot. There's a lot. I introduced you to gaming through this podcast.
Yeah, sure.
Is this not the heaviest microphone since 1995?
It's pretty heavy.
It's unbelievable.
You're weakening it.
I can hardly lift it. I'm left-handed. I've got to keep changing arms. So what am I talking about? Oh yeah. So we're going to get you into comedy. That's sort of future project. I think get you into gaming. But so this guy Jim Gaffigan. You know Jim Gaffigan? He's an American comedian. You saw his quote.
Jim Gaffigan, annoying.
Except you.
Except me.
Yeah. There you go. So and so what did Jim Gaffigan say? He said something like, I feel like I need to go to all my paranoid Jewish friends now and say, oh, you were right. And I think that's a sad situation, right? And the way I think about this Israel conflict, and that's not specifically about tech companies, is so someone said, so I did a trip booked to Israel for the end of November, which is still, I've still got the tickets to go, and I hope it's still to go. And I was talking to somebody who's not Jewish, and who said to me, isn't it a bit dangerous to go? And I said, I think it's when you're Jewish, it's dangerous to be. It's a bit dangerous to be anywhere. You don't quite understand what that feels like. But I feel like these people who are my friends who are in tech in Israel, so part of what they do is tech, and part of what they do is risk their lives, and their kids risk their lives, and unfortunately, I've been a couple of degrees of separation removed from some funerals already in Israel. And they do that so that basically I don't get the treatment, and my kids don't get the treatment that my grandparents had to go through with the Holocaust. I mean, that is what these people are doing. And mostly at the moment, this is an obvious comment, but I'm not talking to them about tech stuff. I'm just grateful to them for basically being the front line of defending a people who too much of the world wants to wipe out. And mostly my experience with them with these Israeli founders and CEOs that is how they feel at the moment as well. Like, yes, it's important to do all the tech stuff, and that is what makes Israel strong. But they understand the importance of what they're doing, and the fact that my kids can live a safe life in Australia because of what they're prepared to do and the risks their families are prepared to take in Israel. I don't know if you've spoken to many.
Not a huge number. I think in terms of the question itself.
I mean, I wasn't that interested in, maybe the questions. Well, yeah, I just say what I want to say. That vaguely resembles a question. What was the question?
Well, I think in terms of the question, in terms of, I guess, the impact on the Israeli economy and on generally, I think you look at the great periods of startups, and that comes generally from adversity. So a great time for startups is post-recession because it's cheap to hire labour, it's cheap to get.
What year did you study? What did you start? What year did you start?
2010, 2009, 2010. So post-GFC, so classic.
No funds available.
We never raised money until we raised money.
Bootstrapped.
We bootstrapped.
That's why no one calls you a unicorn. One, because you never raise money, and two, because you're profitable. Nobody likes that.
We ended up having we raised money after COVID because COVID impacted the balance sheet a lot. But till then we hadn't raised money.
Right.
So that was 12 years after we started. We wouldn't have up for COVID. But if you think of the great time to start a business, it's post economic tragedy or obviously got a much bigger tragedy now in Israel. So I think it's obviously the question for everyone is how long the conflict lasts.
Yeah.
Is it, look at the last 15 years of intifada or 20 years, it's been pretty quick, and generally Israel will go in hard till the US tells them not to, or till the PR problem becomes too great globally.
Well, you can't call up 360,000 people indefinitely, right? You're going to let people get back to driving.
What we went through was 6 years, so
yeah,
it's been on for a long time,
but that wasn't the same.
The war was 6 days, so it's
So the Yom Kippur War was 3 weeks, and the 6 days war, it's in the name, right? But you can't. The population that went and fought World War II is not 5% of. Was not 5% of the country. Like 5% of this country is currently called up in uniform in one way or another. That's not sustainable.
I think the more sustainable is the PR problem that Israel is, unfortunately, we know that's always a problem that Israel faces, anti-Semitism or whatever else, and the sort of need for the left to support an underdog and all that stuff. So how that impacts business, I hope the conflict doesn't last too long. I hope they can achieve their aims quickly. I don't think there's a lasting impact on the Israeli. I hope there's not a lasting impact on Israel. We certainly haven't felt it in our business here. We don't sell a huge amount of travel to Israel. We send it to Jordan and Egypt, which obviously isn't happening at the moment. But Israel isn't a huge destination for us. It's just the nature of how we sell the product. But I'm certainly optimistic it's not a long-standing conflict. I think it's certainly good for Israel, Israeli families, and hopefully people die.
Israel started to feel a bit, in recent times, I would say in the last 5 years when I've been there, for various reasons, doing business there started to feel a bit like doing business in the US, and Israelis started to feel a bit like Americans, and it felt quite relaxed, and people made jokes about safety, and I think that's all over. Look, I think the Israeli psyche is going to be reforged again, and will be tougher again. So I think there'll be a cultural change in dealing with Israelis after this. I've had lots of, I'll call them quasi-competitors for Catapult, the sports tech, the sports tech business I'm involved in. And
why don't you explain a bit what Catapult does for people who might
Yeah,
know?
I was going to tell. Yeah.
Will you take your questions?
Sorry.
We're taking your questions.
No, that's my question. I'm asking.
No, I know, but I was just conscious that it's not just the two of us sitting here, but that's fine. We'll do whatever you want. So what's Catapult? Catapult's most well known for the tech that elite athletes wear while they're playing sport. It's called GPS. It's 1,000 data points a second of a whole variety of different sensors, and it's about improved player performance and welfare and winning championships. Here it's well known because of the AFL, because we work across the whole AFL, but we're probably the clear global leader in this space, and Australia's probably 2 or 3% of our revenue now.
So you basically, sports teams pay you for data you give based on wearable devices.
Yeah, they subscribe to get there's a few different products now, but let's talk about this product. They subscribe and they get hardware that they wear, and then they get a software analytics platform that they use, and software as a service basically. Yeah, exactly.
How much I'm just curious, how much do clubs tend to pay for this stuff? Is it based on how many players or?
Yeah, so that particular product is usually based around the number of players. It can be $20,000 a year, it can be $500,000 a year, depending on what they're using and how many players they have.
Does Maccabi locally get a discount? Or?
Maccabi locally, I'm not sure is. We launched a consumer product, and then we realised that it's much more painful to sell millions of devices at a lower price to consumers than selling to 3,500 elite teams, which I think is what we have now, or something like that. And so, you can imagine. I don't know if they get a discount, but I can tell you if we were ever approached, I'm sure they asked for a discount.
Is that how you know if it's a Jewish team or not?
Definitely. We do deal with Israeli teams, and there is a common theme amongst Israeli teams.
Speaking of discounts and Jewish people, so obviously we run a D2C business. So the difference between my Jewish friend and my non-Jewish friend is I have a non-Jewish friend who sends me a message saying, "Hi, Adam, how are you going? I was thinking about going to Bali. Do you have any advice for me?" And they never bring up a discount. I'll never ask. I'll generally give depending on how close a friend they are. I'll give something. My Jewish friends message saying, "Give me a discount on this." There's no betting around the bush.
You do it, you give it. You probably complain about your margins if somebody asks you for a discount. That's the Jewish reply to the Jewish request for a discount.
Way for thin margin. But, no, we always try and do something. Depending on how close a friend they are.
Remember I told you that I was buying this washing machine. I could buy a washing machine. I was going to buy this expensive Miele washing machine. And I spoke to David Schaefer, who's one of the Kogan founders. And he said, don't buy the Miele washing machine, buy the Kogan washing machine. It's better than the Miele washing machine. Anyway, it turns out it actually is.
They do a pretty good stuff.
It actually is very good. So I did buy it. But obviously I said to him, come on dude, give me a discount. And he said, you were going to spend $3,000, it's $650. What discount do you want? I'm like, just give me something. I asked Ruslan, they gave me nothing. Nothing. They gave me nothing. Anyway, I got it.
Did you get a discount from Gabby and Nessie patch? They give you a discount?
They gave me some free stuff. All the shitty stuff they couldn't move.
I've never got a discount from any of them.
Didn't you? No. Oh yeah. Well, because of the things they
I
say.
get a discount on those tax. I don't know how we get one on Kogan.
No, Schaefer is not going to give discounts. He'll say it's so cheap already. Why are you asking for a discount? I think what their margins are too thin, by the way. That's what they are.
I think look at Kogan. I'm sure everybody knows the Kogan business, which is a really good business. But they've got 400,000 people on Kogan. I think it's called Kogan One or Kogan First. That is an incredible number of people paying.
I'm one of them. I told you I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I don't even know what I'm paying.
$100. We had this debate on the second episode.
Yeah.
First episode.
Did you look up how much I'm paying?
I did look it up. You said I was wrong. I looked up. I was right.
It's not $100.
It's $100 or 98 or whatever.
Yeah.
So guy, here's another question for you. I'm just trying to save you the $100.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to.
I'm
never going to cancel.
Yeah.
I'm never going to.
I just got Uber One last week.
Yeah, I can't believe you paid for Uber One.
I used to work at who used to work at Uber, now works at great guy. He now works at Toro, which is, have you heard of Toro, the car sharing business? Really good business. And he said he used to work at Uber, and he saved like $1,600 with Uber One in a year.
He's lying to you.
He showed me his
Because he works for Uber.
I saved $34 last month, first month in. Although I'm not never using
but you know what? I can't believe you of all people have not caught on to this. The prices get jacked up to the moon, and then they give you Uber One, and then the prices come back down to what you would say.
Sure, yeah. I was using Uber Eats. I hate Uber Eats, but Uber Ride is worthwhile. For those who listen to the pod, you know it's a constant bet noir, that Uber Eats discussion. I think we talk about every single
I'm subscribed to every service that you could possibly subscribe to. I don't even know half the services I'm subscribed to anymore, but I'm subscribed to everything.
I would spend easily $200 a month. Easily. Apple's $42. KO $20.
What's Apple? What do you buy on Apple?
Apple TV.
Apple TV. I use Tidal. You know Tidal?
What's Tidal?
That's better. No, we'll talk about it another
So
time.
what
What's your
advice?
next question?
What advice? You've got a lot of young dynamic people.
I was going to say about Catapult before he massively sidetracked. This is what I was going to say about Catapult. So Catapult has got Israeli, not direct competitors, but quasi-competitors, frenemies. And after this war started, after the attack on the 7th of October, obviously I reached out to all of these founders of all of these different quasi-competitors, who I've got a nice relationship with, and just the emotion and the sentiment after that was completely different to the day before, and all of a sudden there were no thoughts of trying to emotionally manipulate each other a little bit in our conversations as we do all this. It was all just like we were all part of the same thing immediately, and I thought that was kind of a pretty remarkable change as a consequence of this, and that certainly has been the continued dynamic that I've had with them. What do you want to ask us?
No, that's amazing. I love that because I think...
I ended that conversation on a high after the Uber Eats wormhole that we went down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give? I've got two questions. One advice would you give to someone that is thinking of leaving their job? So I know, you took a big risk and you gave up, you were a doctor, you were a lawyer, successful careers if you like, and now all of a sudden to go, what advice would you give them? That's number one, and I'll come to number two soon. So either one of you could go first.
You always give every lawyer the advice of leaving the legal profession. What did you?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. Well, I'd give every doctor the advice of not leaving the medical profession. I think we need more doctors. I think it was a travesty on the system that I left.
How many years ago?
How long was I think I practiced for 3 years.
No, so like a resident or something like that.
How do you know those words?
What am I supposed to do?
Okay. Yes, I was a resident. I was going into surgical training. I was going to become a surgeon, and I was on this, and I knew, there are things about medicine there are things to love about being a doctor, a lot of things to love. The relationship you have with patients is not like anything else I've ever experienced in life. It's very special, so that was nice. But I knew it wasn't the thing I loved more than anything else in life, and it's a quasi answer to your question, just to put that out there. And so this is why I left medicine, since you didn't ask.
I'm not asking questions.
No, I'm going to say it anyway. The reason I left is because I wanted to figure out how to make my Monday mornings feel like my Sunday mornings. That was my ambition. And so I thought, I don't feel that way when I go to the hospital in the morning, on a Monday morning. Like, it's a nice other feeling, but it doesn't like a Sunday morning. And I just really loved, I coded as a kid and I love tech startups. And so I thought I'm just going to try and give that a go full time and see if that feels good. And the first few years, so I launched I quit medicine and went full time into tech in April 2000. Do you remember what happened in 2000?
Just global reviews.
Yeah, you're very across my resume.
I did we did an interview for my previous podcast.
Did I give my CV to you?
That was the interview. I went through it. It was a great interview actually. It's one of my favourite episodes.
Did a lot of people listen to it?
Probably a couple of thousand.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Well, you're right. It was global reviews, correct? 1 out of 1. And
phone business before that, didn't you? Phone card business.
You're all right. I sold fax machines. Remember those things? I used to go to auctions of liquidated companies before there was an internet, World Wide Web, and I used to buy these fax machines, and I used to fix them up. I read a book how to fix fax machines and photocopiers. By the way, photocopies are a lot harder to fix than fax machines. And I broke a lot of photocopiers in that process as well. And I used to fix them up and sell them in the trading post. And 400%, 500% markup. It was a good business, cash business. My parents let me do it out of the house. I lived with them. That was a good business.
I think this is what we talked about in our interview from our last podcast. Obviously, we have one together now.
I've got no recollection of this interview. I remember I was on the podcast. I don't remember.
It was during COVID. I interviewed you. I was at my house, you were at your house, and we did it over the phone. And I think the great thing about you is you had this innate sense of curiosity.
Well, I like this conversation. Keep going with those sort of things.
You're always such a great business person. You're just very curious about things. And my favourite story of all your stories, and you have some good ones, is how you started the phone card business and how you went to, I think you were selling something and you went to some old Jewish lady's house and she was calling out for something in Israel. Why don't you tell that story?
You've got a good memory. Yeah, well this actually, you'll like this because this will dovetail nicely. I will tell you what I would tell people who are going to leave their jobs, by the way. We'll get there. Life is a journey and we've got to take the long route to get where we're going. So you'll like this because it will end with a story about a fax machine. But so I got back from Israel. I was in Israel in 1994. I went there for a youth movement program with Habo, which was much less far left than it is today. I'd call it centrist back in the day. And I got back, and I really wanted to keep communicating with some friends I'd had in Israel, and it was very expensive to call, and so I found a way. So that was in the back of my mind, and then I went and worked for these guys selling mobile phones and fax machines back in the early days of this mobile phones. And
Why are you doing medicine?
I was hadn't gone back. I got back from Israel in January, and I wasn't going back till March. And I thought I'll go and work in this thing. And I loved it. I love selling stuff, and I love selling tech. And one time, this guy said to me, as Jewish brothers, they said, "Wasn't going to help me in Caulfield? Go out and drop this fax machine off at this woman's house." So I went and did this house call, dropping off a fax machine. And she was this woman, she would have been in her late 70s, and she wanted to fax her son in Israel. And so I went and had some tea with her. She wanted me to have some tea, and I thought, that's good, it's still paying me by the hour, I'll have tea with her. And she told me about this service that you could do callback. You would call America, and then they would call you back, and then you would call Israel, and it was much cheaper. And on the back of that, I found out who was offering this service. And that became my business. It was a very modest named business called Global Communications. And I sold it to France Telecom at the end, actually. And that became that business. And the way that story finishes, to close the loop, is...
How much did you sell it for?
The business?
Yeah.
I can't remember, maybe 100 grand. But I was like 20 years old or 21 years old or something else, not bad.
Yeah.
As a side hustle.
It's like $1 million now.
It was the equivalent in modern currency of $1 billion. So unfortunately, and so in the end, one day I was at an auction down in Port Melbourne before it was the way it is now, and they had these auction yards down there, and I was buying fax machines, and I bought fax machines, and I bought a filing cabinet, because like $5, okay, I'll take it. I had to get in my car, so it was not easy. And when I was looking through the filing cabinet, all the files were still in the filing cabinets. And guess whose files they were? Those guys had gone out of business. Those two brothers who had the fax machine and mobile phone business, and I inadvertently bought their filing cabinets with all of their files inside the filing cabinet and the fax machines that they... So that was kind of a...
This is your old boss.
Yes, my old boss. How I met that woman when I dropped off the fax. Yeah, it was kind of a sad end to the story.
Because you charged so much for that house call, I couldn't afford it.
Yeah, I probably pushed them over the edge. All right, so this is what I tell someone quitting their job. You should do it because you should do it when you're young. So you said, I think the comment was, it was a brave decision leaving medicine. It was not a brave decision. It was a reckless decision leaving medicine. I didn't realise what a big thing is, and I thought I can always go back if it doesn't work out with business. Did you think, how old were you when you left law?
Freehills, 24.
Oh, you were at Freehills?
Yeah.
Ooh. So,
$400 an hour was built out back then.
You were billing out for it and not getting paid $25 an hour.
Yeah, exactly. That was $50,000.
Yeah, well, there you go. So 24. Don't you think you would say, when you're young, quit the job and go and have a go?
Just a quick anecdote on fax machines. People
don't know what fax machines are here.
I know, that's a problem.
We used to send paper, and you couldn't send, there was no email, and so you had to put paper in the machine, and whatever you put in the machine came out on paper at the machine. I don't know what fax machines are. 3?
I used to be a... Do you remember Redheads? Anybody remember Redheads in the nightclub?
Yeah.
Sure, Redheads.
I was in the era of fax machines.
Yeah, it was the era, exactly, that's my story. So I was a host of Redheads was the hottest nightclub. It was in Albert Park, right where the Grand Prix, they got rid of it in 99. It was owned by Brian Goldsmith, who's Tony's dad, the Jewish guy who owned the Underground and all this kind of stuff.
Goldsmith, is he a Jew?
He is. Very successful nightclub owner. I think he could still be alive.
He's related to Olivia Newton-John.
Yes, they are related, brother-in-law or something like that. Yeah.
Olivia Newton-John's grandfather won a Nobel Prize for Physics. He was one of the guys that started quantum physics. Amazing guy. Yeah. She said she got all of the genes from the other side of the family. That's what she says. I tell you, Redheads.
So I was working at Redheads, and my job was basically to have a door list. So people would say my name as they went in. I would pay $1 every time somebody said my name. And I'd get a drink card that was loosely based on how many people came in. So, and it was a bit of a competition for all.
Well, you paid in alcohol. You don't drink.
I had like one drink. I gave the rest away. It was like kissing babies. My mates used to say. You get paid, and so people just. It got to the point where people would say most of these like cool guys from Scotch were doing it, and I was a bit more commercial than these guys. I'd brazenly go to anyone. You go to Redheads, and use my name. And people, and they'd be able to get in, so you couldn't get in otherwise. And Q was massive.
Is that true? You couldn't get in?
Pretty much.
Your name's struggle. People
struggle to get in on Thursday. Something like you got there early enough to get in. But I had to fax in this door list. So every Thursday at 7 o'clock, I had this door list with like 1,000 names in tiny 5-6 font, which I had to fax in every single week. That's how backwards it was. And they marked the name off as they went in. And I was the second best host that Redheads still tragically shut down. There was one girl named Brian was better than me, but I was I was number 2, so it was...
I didn't know this claim to fame. You know what killed my fax business, by the way? I got technologically disrupted. No, because I used to send faxes on this thermal toilet paper kind of stuff, right? Yeah. And then what happened is that plain paper became a thing, and I got wedged because people did not want to buy the thermal paper stuff anymore, but the plain paper faxes were so new that when they turned up at the auctions, they basically got sold for only a small amount below retail. I couldn't make a margin on it. So I had to go head towards photocopiers after that. I could get those on the Nissan Skyline, a photocopier, not easy.
My advice on moving a job, I've had this 2 pieces of advice that I always give at every interview I used to always give it, and that is, unless you're working tandem, principle 1 is...
It's a long lead-in for a piece of advice that you claim to be giving in every interview.
In case you haven't heard it, advice 1 is don't force an idea. So most businesses are based on solving a problem that's relative to you in real life. So your problem was you couldn't get a fax machine, so you
I've got a lot of problems. Infinite number of businesses.
Your problem was you couldn't call Israel, so you started a business.
That's true. That's true. You're right.
So find a problem. That's our first business, the backpacker apartment business. We had a friend who was a backpacker, he was living in some shitty place in Grey Street with a pedophile, so we started a business that wasn't with pedophiles. So that was solving a problem. So always trying to...
You might want to get your memoirs edited before they actually published.
The pedophile line always gets a laugh. I use it every time. People get half shocked, half laugh. So find a problem that you can relate to, and don't force a business. So don't quit your job, don't quit your medicine career, go home and start handwriting, here's an idea, that's not going to work. But if you have a great idea that comes to you and it actually relates to a real problem, then that's the business. And rule 2 sort of relates to rule 1 is, once you've got the idea, put some real skin in the game. And by that I mean it's probably not so much capital, you don't have capital, but it's time. So
yes.
Your only job is sweat equity. So don't do a bullshit side hustle 9 o'clock at night, because ultimately that's bullshit. Very rarely, side hustles very rare. You hear about the 1 in 1,000 side hustles that work, but most 999 of 1,000 don't work. So me and Jez, my business partner, who lives in London now, but his great credit, he was always very good at pushing me to do stuff. So when we started our first business, he goes, take a leave, quit 3 years, I took a leave of absence, I could have brought back. It was a very low risk really. But I took a full leave of absence, so I wasn't getting paid. And I spent, and all day we did was work on the business. Well, there wasn't that much work to do, so we'd leave at 3 o'clock and play footy, but like notionally we weren't.
I played network games. This is what happened to me. So I quit in 2000, and I quit because all I wanted to do, I love the internet so much, that I just wanted to do any job that let me mess around with the internet all day. And so what I ended up doing was advising these big corporations about what they should do online in 2000, 2001, because they were clueless, right? They had no idea, and I loved the internet. So I would go in and charge them, and I thought, I can't just charge them like $15,000 for my time. So I just fabricate this whole like audit and this and that and competitors, and I charge them $15,000 for that. And that's how it started. But then September 11 came, and that was not good for business, right? Like that killed the whole economy. And I had to go back and like no company after September 11 happened. Obviously, it was a tragedy on a human level. I'm not minimizing that, but economically, it caused a huge recession. Like no company would spend any money. Everyone was just panicked about what was going to happen, and so we had no money. And I remember this is what I did. I did 3 things. I can think of 2 of them. I'm sure I'm going to think of a 3rd by the time I get there. Okay. So one is I stopped paying myself, and you know the guy I was in business with, Andy. Yeah, he was a grammar guy. Go for grammar guy.
We were in the same school. You were 65 years above me in the same school.
All right, well, let's not talk about that. But like, he lives in Tel Aviv now in Israel.
Where's he?
Yeah. And so I did the business with him, and we stopped paying ourselves. He says we were friends at school. That's what he tells everyone. How did you guys meet? Oh, we were friends at school. I didn't like him.
My mum would always say, you've got to be like more like this Adam good guy. He's a correct charismatic.
Really? Who would tell you that?
My mum did. And then my mum would say, you've got to be more like this Adir Shiffman guy. He's so smart. I don't know how she knew that you were, but she did somehow. So you guys were like the guys who were trying to be like.
Well, I don't know what to say about that. I think Uman's probably a fantastic woman, but she needs to get better heroes. So Adam and I didn't take any money. We paid this other guy who was in Hubbo with us. We got him to move to Melbourne, and his name's Brett Smith. He's now a teacher at King David. He's a year-level coordinator at King David. ex-Yavna. So you're saying Yavna,
Yavna.
No, it's going to Kinder. It's a year level coordinator. Yeah. I'm right up with his CV. I'm all over it. I don't his CV better than my CV. You don't know his CV. So we didn't pay ourselves, and so what I did to earn money is on Tuesday nights after I was at work, I worked in the sub-basement. Do you know what a sub-basement is? It's a place that never gets any sun, but somehow when it's raining outside, it rains in the sub-basement. It's a unique location. It was an old bank vault, very cheap. I don't think we paid rent. And so we didn't pay ourselves. And on a Tuesday night, I remember I would leave work, I would drive to Lineker Hospital, in Brighton, wherever it is, Hampton. I would do the overnight shift at the hospital, get paid a week's worth of wages because of that overnight shift, which mostly involved sleeping and filling some, nurse orders. And then the next morning, I would just go back into work on the Wednesday, and that is how I was able to pay myself through that period. The other thing I said in that period is we were basically about to go broke. And I sold this deal to a health fund, and it was 20K, and I sold it on my sick bed. And I closed this deal, and it would give us enough money to keep going for another 6 months. And Adam is a very ethical guy, and he said, I don't think we should take their money because it's a 1-year contract, and we may not be in business in 1 year to be able to deliver the contract. And so I'm sure you're going to agree with what I'm going to say about this startup attitude, right? Which is, I said, this is what we're going to do, Goodvac. We are going to run, there's a big wall in front of us. And I don't know if we're going to be able to get over that wall. We may not be able to get over that wall, but we're not going to stop running. If we don't get over that wall, we are going to splat into the front of that wall and run as hard as we can. We're taking that money. And so we took the money, and miraculously we stayed in business at that point. And the third thing we did is, you're right, we became very lean in terms of running the business, and that really set us up well for when business eventually came back. But I agree with you. You've got to. There's some famous writers that what they say is, if you want to be a great author, you've got to write what you know. Don't try and make up stuff. Write what you know. And I think that's true for what you're saying in business. You've got to do businesses where you feel passionately about what it is that you're doing.
The near-death thing is really interesting. I think most businesses have some sort of near-death experience. The great ones, the Apples, Microsofts, all these guys.
The best ones have had near-death experiences.
Amazons, yeah, they've all pretty much had. Well, we had a near-death experience in 2012. We were around a couple of years, and we were profitable. We bought a couple of businesses that had some liabilities and didn't quite, we didn't proper DD essentially.
So you didn't know what you were doing. You were young and you didn't know what you were doing.
32, we weren't that young.
All right. You were not that young and you didn't know.
We were pretty stupid. And we were so close to hitting the wall, and Mark Mitch, one of our main sales guy, another friend from uni, who was just turned out to be this incredibly talented sales guy, negotiator, and we were trying to get this deal in Vietnam, but the general manager wasn't calling us back. So Mitch was at this conference, I think it was ITV, one of the Asian conferences, and he happened to bump into this guy randomly. Made him sign the deal there, and that deal made us $200,000.
That's fantastic.
Got us over the line to January. We signed another deal that got us, and we were fine. So, but for him running this random dude, and we still work with that guy. He's in a different hotel. His name's Sven. He's a different hotel now. Had 2 hotels since, and we still work with this guy.
That is what makes startups survive, right? Like this jacket, you see what that is? Institute. Right. So these guys have this online suit business. I said this to you on the podcast. I don't have enough equity to make this pitch worthwhile, so I just say this as a matter of fact. So when I first got involved with these guys and helped them, these were finance guys earning a good living in Sydney, and they quit to do this online custom suit business, and they went door to door to houses selling these suits to get moving. And I thought, anyone that quits a finance job and goes door to door to sell suits to make their business work, that is someone worth backing, right?
It's like the story about you should always try and back up Mormon because they're the best salespeople because they have to sell like Christianity. They go door to door trying to convert people to what about the rabbi they say. It's
a rabbi, you can back a rabbi, yeah, that's true.
So if you can sell a religion like door to door.
A friend of mine's a Jehovah's Witness. He used to go door to door with the tree. His book was literally called The Truth. I mean, that is a pretty easy pitch, to be honest. And he used to, this is what he says to me. He used to go to Caulfield, and he said, I always knew it was a Jewish house. And I'm like, because the mezuzah, he knows a lot about Jews, this guy. Because the mezuzah, he goes, nah, because like, the doors are so big on Jewish houses, it's like you're trying to rebuild the temple on your front door. So he's not wrong about that. There's massive doors in Caulfield.
The guy, the Mormon, you know, there's that guy the guy who started, I think, JetBlue and Zero Airlines.
Is he a Mormon?
I think he is. He grew up in Utah or whatever. So,
Well,
and he had this guy's most, he's been on, I think, How Built this a couple of times for both of his businesses and just the persistence.
How Built is the second best business podcast.
I thought the second best.
So guys, second question for you. Here's the next follow-up. The follow-up question is, someone in this room wants to work for you or wants to present to you. What's the best way? And how will they get a job? Are you some talented people?
You should answer that question because I try not to have any staff.
We've got too much. I think a lot of it's timing. And sometimes, I think persistence is a really good. So let's assume that the resume is good. We love people who are entrepreneurial, smart people, so a lot of people think that box. But a lot of it's about being right place, right time. Sometimes the perfect person comes, you don't have that role, and then 2 months later we have that role, but the perfect person's gone somewhere else. So it's really about continually asking, being persistent is a big one. Not every single day, but checking in regularly. I love people with entrepreneurial backgrounds. My favourite hire, probably my favourite hire of all time, is a guy called Dan Catay, who I'm sure I'm over mentioning his name, because some people here might know, obviously after Sammy Hills, a great team member of ours. But so Dan was a guy who his brother was a railway actually, and he was coming from Perth. He just finished his law degree in Perth. He's a 22-year-old kid. Got introduced to me by David Gold, who was an August chairman. I think Dan was an August chairman, and this guy called me. It was actually Friday, 5 o'clock. I was driving home, driving Jumper's dinner. I think I didn't have kids then. Driving Jumper's dinner, and this guy calls me. Or I call the guy up, and I said, and he goes, "I can have a job." I said, "Oh mate, I don't need a general counsel. We're too small to have a lawyer." He goes, "No, I'm happy to do anything." I said, "Well, I'll give you like a customer service job, like sort of an entry level, helping people after that board." He goes, "Okay, I'll take it." I said, "All right." So he started with customer service, and we started doing sales. So people would call up and we'd sell them holidays. So he started doing that, and it was really good. So we started managing a small team, and the team got bigger and bigger. We managed that team. We was managing 50 people at one point, and then I gave him some roles in like managing business units. So he managed like a Spreaks business. We had a few other businesses. And
You buy Spreads.
Yeah.
You bought every little piece of shit daily news business in Australia.
The Spreaks was sold for 40 million.
Yeah.
For 7. We paid, I think, $2 million for it and badly overpaid.
Oh,
So,
I would have thought they should pay you $2 million to take that business.
sure. We probably lost $1 million.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You got off cheaply.
So he was running Spreaks for a while, and then he left. He got a job, I think with Sammy Shackman, and he was selling. He was doing vitamins and something like that, and he was making good money. And then he left to start a business called Fun Day, which is a sugar-free lolly business that's, I don't know what it's worth, but it's in the tens of millions now, I hope. So great story, a kid that started with us.
Did you back him in that business?
No, he's 100% equity still.
He's got 100% of the equity.
I think I like him as his mentor, but I don't have any equity in the business. But he's a great guy. And,
That's a nice story. I disagree with almost everything you just said. Not about him. No, he's amazing. But I don't know. I'm sure he is. But like, well, let me tell you what I think about. Well, so much a bit of it. I sort of disagree with everything for dramatic effect. I tell you what I disagree with. Well, you might agree with this, to be honest. If a really high quality person comes along, when I say I try not to have employees, like I try not to run businesses. Generally, I get involved with founders and buy a big chunk of their business and help them grow their business, right? And so what I try to do is not directly employ anyone. I just say to the founders, I think this would be a good person, you should consider them. But ultimately, the founder has to make a choice because they need personal accountability for the hire. Because if it goes badly, then they're just going to say, well, this is your person, and that's a bad outcome for everyone, right? And so I say to founders, when you meet someone who you think is great, even if you feel like you can't afford them, figure out a way to get them into your business and tell them honestly, I can't afford you. We're going to have to figure out a way to make the money to be able to pay you what you're worth. But just get them in. Great people find something to do that grows your business. And I always say businesses are not self-propelled. They are carried on the shoulders of their staff, basically. And so the more great staff you've got, the faster you're going to grow. And so I think that, my answer to the question is, how would you get a job with Adam or with one of the businesses I'm involved in, is just show how hungry you are, which you agree with, and just show how not entitled you are. What's the guy's name you were talking about? Yeah. So he was totally not entitled. He did his law degree and then said, I'll do customer service. And the trick is to get a foot in a door, because once you're in, if you're amazing, we'll figure it out. Like, you're going to rocket up the organisation. And so that would be my number one thing, is just be exceptionally hungry, whether it's your own business, whether it's, you know the founders, there are founders where there's this rapper, I can't remember whose song this is. I think that, I don't want to say it's Kanye. Is Kanye back in the good books yet, or is it back in the still, we won't say it's him. I don't know if it's him, we'll say it's Jay-Z, it might not be. But one of the songs is, in one line is a song, he says, giving up is harder than trying. You know that line in that song? You know, like kind of music? Oh, we've got nothing in common. But basically, I think there are people, I feel that way, you feel that way, giving up's harder than trying, and those are the people that you want to surround yourself with. People that say, I just can't bring myself to quit, whatever it takes, I will suffer the pain and I will push through, and I'm just going to make it work. And whether that's a staff member or someone that you back, like really that's what you're looking for in a person.
Oh, that's right. I think
that's the closest I've come all night to answering a question. I just want to point that out.
I think the quality though is sometimes the role, someone's in $1 million a year role, I'm making up a number, and we've got a $200,000 a year role. That's a big drop. Like, you just can't pay many people $2 million a year. So there's, Dan's a great example. Dan could have got a job as a lawyer, he's got a job as a CEO. So there's a bit of, it depends how hungry somebody is, and that's sometimes not possible.
Often I've said to people who are on high salaries that we've wanted to come into an organisation, maybe give them some employee share options or something like that as part of coming in. And I've said to them, look, you're on $350, let's say. I'm not paying you $350. It's not going to be happening. But I want to be fair. So let's sit down and have an honest conversation about how much money you need to sustain your lifestyle. Like maybe they've got kids at school or whatever they've got. So we're going to have that honest conversation. I will make sure we will pay you that. We're going to give you shares so that, because the quid pro quo is you need to get rich if this thing succeeds. And as we make more money as a business, we'll increase your salary. But first, just let's make sure that you can survive with your life. And I've done that quite a few times, and generally it's worked out really well. I mean, people that are prepared to do that are people that are going to win, in my experience.
A lot of companies don't have share plans though, especially a lot of early stage companies. Like if you're an ASX business, of course you've got a share plan, but if you're random startup 2 years old, you probably don't have.
I would have a share plan if I was a random startup 2 years old.
Yep. I think most companies 2 years startup.
They should. The problem with share plans is that you said this was
you just called Catapult?
She doesn't have an employee share option, but it's a bit different because most of her, this is a business called Daily Blooms, most of her staff are florists. And so they're not really into, it's a different mentality, right? They're not in business. But
guys, I'm only because I'm conscious of time, could we open the floor? If anybody has questions, and then, because we've only got a couple of minutes, so go.
Considering the tough times that we currently have, how are you navigating any business partners or clientele that don't necessarily agree with the political set that we have?
as in people that are against Israel?
Yes.
Well, they can go fuck themselves. I'm not interested in those people. That's my honest view. I'm not interested in dealing with them.
So considering Catapult has a lot of sporting teams that have also probably not been against Israel, but not necessarily for.
Yeah, well, I think sporting teams should focus on playing sport for a start. That's a very good thing for them to be doing, and not passing political statements about the world where they're not educated. Let's say they're not educated or sophisticated in knowing what's going on. And definitely we work with teams in countries that at the moment will have recalled their ambassadors from Israel or not have relations with Israel. Okay, so that's a whole separate issue. And by the way, it's not me dealing directly with them, obviously, and I accept that. But dealing with someone, because it's easy for me to answer on a personal level, dealing with someone today that thinks that somehow there's some moral equivalence between Israel and terrorists, or thinks that kind of, it didn't happen in a vacuum, or that Jews kind of brought it on themselves, I maintain they can go fuck themselves. I don't care what deal there is available. Like, I'm not interested in even being involved with people who I don't like. Like, I will not do business with people I don't like, or who are not fun, or who I think are unethical. Why would I ever do business with somebody like that? I mean, that's horrible.
What do you think about, I want to hear what you said, but what do you think about what's going on, which I love? There's some person in America, some billionaire in America that's got a list of a few hundred students.
That's Bill Ackman, isn't it?
Yeah, that's signed, and he said, I want to make sure they will not be employed. What do you think of that? I think
we
it's
talked
great.
about it on the podcast last week, actually. if you listened to last week's podcast, which everybody should do, to get listen numbers up. We talked about that exact issue.
Listen, they can listen twice to get listen numbers up.
Exactly twice, 3 times the parents.
What do you think about Bill Ackman?
Oh, as we said last week, I don't love cancel culture. I think I think if you look at what happened with those statements, a lot of people, I think like one of the groups was the Sikh group at Harvard or whatever, pretty peace-loving people, the Sikhs usually. I think a lot of people got signed up to these groups, didn't even know what they were sort of signed, and they sort of got involuntarily enrolled there. So I think I'd be cautious to cancel someone who's 19-year-old and doesn't know what they're doing. It's very different. The two experiences I haven't had.
Well, let's ask you a tougher question. What will you do when one of the people in your team, in the customer service team, you find out that they went to a pro-Palestinian protest and yelled "Gas the Jews"? I'm being extreme, right, to try and make a point. What are you going to do about that? These are the questions. These are the tough questions.
I'm not sure
we need to be
able to fire somebody on that.
I'd fire them.
I'm not sure you got.
Oh, that's all right.
I can talk
Big deal. If they were Australian, it's all
I
right.
think it was a real life example. It wasn't that, but it was not far off it. It was, I'm in a group called YPO, which is called Young Presidents, which is a group of CEOs.
I'm very happy you have a YPO reference into this conversation.
I'm trying to get you in for years and you never joined, but
I'm too old.
you had you weren't at the time. Anyway, you had a
You
group
made me feel so good about
you
this.
have 8 to 10 people in a what's called a forum, and then you get very close to these people. You see them every month, and you know a lot of confidential stuff. And one of the people in this forum I'm in, who I knew was Palestinian, but I consider myself fairly moderate on matters of Israel. I assumed he was a fairly moderate person as well. We never talked about any. He didn't have any reason to talk about anything like that. Obviously, this was pre October 7th. But I then it became obviously there's a few Jewish YPO groups. It became apparent he was at one of the big rallies, and he was leading. He was the guy who owns Burgatory, makes sense. And
Oh my God, I saw that video.
And so I know him quite well. So he was in the video, and then I was on the plane to Singapore last week, and I said I didn't realise how offensive the River to the Sea chant is, and explain what it was. We tried to claim it what it meant, I explained what it meant, we tried to claim it was the old, different meaning. And I said, will you condemn the actions of us? And he conveniently ignored that question. And I just said, I can't be a forum with you anymore.
Good on you.
And so
Good
either he leaves or I leave, so the forum will be in the process of working out which one of us leaves. I'm hoping it will be him, but we'll see what happens. So that was sort of one.
I think that kind of situation, when you ask that question, what the real question you asked me is, I don't know your name, but all I can see is Ash in front of you, so I can't see where. Sorry. And so the real question is, do you want to be involved with people who think that your children should be vulnerable to the next wave of genocide? That is how I take that person's actions. And to me, that's a pretty straightforward question, you know? And so I'm very happy to hear that you did that to him. I thought Rear Window was going to write about him and his rally and being at the rally.
We've got another question. That was a great question, by the way. Thank you.
First of all, Adir, I want to thank you for your advocacy on LinkedIn primarily. I think it's very important, it's very encouraging. Your voice is loud and it's very fair, and I appreciate it very much. My question is about interest rates. I know you guys differ on the interest rate tool by the Reserve Bank. We're looking at another interest rate rise on the finance broker. Looking at another interest rate rise. Adam, does that make you happy?
One sentence, Adam. One sentence. Come on, what's your one sentence?
The
The interest rate should be 3,000% or else
interest rates should be not negative in real terms. Is my view. I don't know if you listen to the podcast, it sounds like. So we currently have interest rates that the real interest rate is, you look at the interest rate, you look at the inflation rate, you take them away, and it should be about 2%. That's called the natural rate of interest. And at the moment it's negative 2 in Australia. It's positive in the States, it's 2% in the States. That's why inflation's getting under control there. It's still 3%, a bit sticky, but it's getting there. Inflation is the biggest killer of living standards, of anything that's ever happened. Pretty much everyone in this room has never lived through inflation. The last time inflation was significant was in like 1978 or whatever. So probably no one was born or barely born at that time. So no one understands that, unless you live in Argentina, no one understands how bad inflation is. Everyone's worried about recession where unemployment goes to 8%. That means 92% of people are unemployed. It's actually not too bad. Inflation of 7 or 8%. So look at, since COVID, one thing we both agree on is COVID. And since COVID, prices are up about 25 or 30% in most Western countries. That's a 30% reduction in living standards for most people. It's worse for poorer people, it's not as bad for richer people, because inflation tends to impact the poor a lot more than the rich. And so look at, and we were both very strong on this during COVID. So COVID was the greatest tax on the poor that will occur in our lifetime. That's why I was so against those absurd and obscene lockdown policies. It was stealing from one cohort, the people who had no voice, and giving it to rich people who had a great lockdown. They go on their boats, they go to ports, all that kind of stuff. So, yes, I think interest rates should be 8 or 9% without question. Clearly, I'm talking my own book as well, because a lot of our customers benefit from high interest rates. They've got cash in the bank. They don't have, we're not selling to the 25-year-old renter or the 38-year-old on the mortgage interest. We're selling to the 65-year-old with plenty of cash in the bank. So, yes, I'm talking my own book, and yes, we're an importer of luxury travel, so we want a better exchange rate, not a 63, which also causes inflation, because we import inflation. So, yeah, there's probably the RBA is the last two governors have never worked anywhere but the RBA. They've never worked in any private. So these people meant to be managing the economy who have no experience
It's the
working.
longest sentence ever.
It's
It's a Shakespearean soliloquy with no punctuation. In summary, Adam thinks interest rates should be higher than inflation in order to bring down inflation because of all the nasty stuff that he said, which is largely right. And I think that I'm happy I don't have to be responsible for macroeconomic policy, because macroeconomics is rolling dice, and I think it should be done slowly and cautiously, because lots of people have mortgages and they need to be able to pay them, and I think recessions are worse than Adam thinks, but largely the abbreviated version of what he says I think has a lot of merit. I think I would just be more cautious than him in raising rates, but one thing is irrefutable, which is the US has raised rates significantly more than Australia. They've tamed inflation, and they have a higher dollar because people want to put their money in that currency because they get more interest on their money.
Guys, last two questions.
Discussion behind as well.
Okay, go Zaman.
What's your podcast called?
How do you spell it?
It's on the fly, the Contrarians.
And for small businesses, would you be willing to invest?
The podcast is called The Contrarians with Adam and Adir, which we never had a discussion about whose name would come first.
I know, you can tell who chose the order.
I said it because that meant I didn't have to do any work. That was my plan on that. Would you? It's not. Is it alphabet? Yeah. Well, that's a coin flip. That's just a lucky
I
coincidence.
think Adam idea sounds better than Adir and Adam.
I know you do. Would we invest in small businesses? I only would invest in a very narrow, specific type of small business, which is where I've got some expertise. More broadly, I try to focus on my very specific areas of expertise.
Adir is actually really smart. So I've done probably 15 or 16 investments in probably Series A is my sweet spot. I think if I look at my portfolio now, it probably wasn't the right thing. I think what Adir does is invest in 2 or 3 or 4 businesses and actually act as an exec chair and helps them, which I think is the right model. I think the problem with investing in lots of small businesses.
Until I have to go to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, of course.
Final question. Do you think corporate Australia should be a lot more vocal in terms of being pro-Israel? So it's not a loaded question. Do you think Luxury Escape, or do you forget about your company, or your companies, not as a private person, right? Do you think should be making statements going out there?
You know, so I get invited to this particular type of lunches where I'm the least important person in these lunches. It's all of these, like Australian Stock Exchange 50 biggest or 100 biggest chair people that are at these lunches, maybe 15, 20 people. And definitely the views in that room, you maybe would be surprised to know that they are generally not the kind of right-wing capitalist views that you might expect. They're actually quite left-wing progressive views in those rooms. And what I think is that if those people were making public statements with their companies, we might not like the public statements that they're making. And in general, I think that, the good thing about Gen Y, he thinks he's a millennial, by the way. So, I'm not getting to this again. So millennials, they've done some good things for the world and made the world more progressive in a positive way and care more about just making money in companies. But I generally think that because large corporations are such an amalgam of staff that have a whole spectrum of different views and customers that have a whole spectrum of different views, it should be rare for a large company to make political statements and take political positions, because I don't think that they're the best placed organisations in society to do that.
I agree. I think, like, if you look at, we're both fiduciaries of shareholders. So if you own 100% of the business, you can do what you want. But I don't understand. I own 22% of my business. I've got 78% of the equity owned by others, who admittedly all probably have a similar property to our view, but nonetheless, I haven't asked the question. If we happen to have 40% of our customers who are maybe not pro Israel, I don't think it's. If I was to destroy 40% of our, if not more of our value, that probably wouldn't go down overly well. I think there's better ways to support Israel through donation, through charity, through doing work that doesn't involve a statement that probably doesn't actually help that much. Like I'm not sure.
Personal advocacy is fine. Like you can set
Yeah,
up
I think
your
personal advocacy on your own non-company channels is fine. But I think using company channels and potentially offending half, if not more, unfortunately, of your customer base.
Some people complain to Catapult. When I made COVID statements saying the lockdown's a disaster and like it's an oppression of people's rights, some people wrote to Catapult and said we want to complain about Adir. Anyway, they're barking up the wrong tree with that one.
During COVID, I was similar to you, and I was talking lockdowns were bad for our business. I was sort of talking pro luxury scale. I wrote articles about return for Flight Centre and all that kind of stuff. And you get the dickhead who would say I'm never buying from luxury scales again.
Yeah.
But it was a tiny minority. And I write from Crikey, which unfortunately has become the most far ultra left
So
publications.
guys, the real final question, sorry, this is definitely not for you categorically, Adam only. So we're actually wanting to do, we told everyone to come tonight, and there's a free luxury escape holiday. So we just want to know when to meet you where. We don't mind the cruise or the private plane.
So the Quest Frankston.
Hey, guys, we're not fussy. We'll start with the Quest Franson, year 1, that's cool. But what weekend?
Next weekend.
You should say last weekend.
We are very happy. Guys, big round of applause, guys. Thank you so much. This is the charge, but Adam said it is a special code when you book, that you could get a 25% discount.
Probably not 25.
25%. These margins are not 25%.
I'm sure we get $100 credits.
There you go.
Let's raise the margins.
Guys, I just want to make 2 quick announcements. First of all, thank you. You guys are incredible. Lots of fun. Lots of great, informative information. I do want to make just 2 quick announcements that, as I said at the beginning, as we said in the middle, as we said at the end, our hearts and minds are 100% categorically with Israel, and we deeply pray that God should be with them, specifically protect all our holy soldiers that are really keeping us safe, and we thank them unequivocally. I do want to say that tomorrow we've organized, YGP's been a major instrumental in making tomorrow happen. It's a massive community event. It's at 5 p.m. at Princess Park. It's not, you guys have the inside scoop already. Okay, please spread the word, bring your friends. We need to support Israel. There's going to be thousands of people that is ready, literally, it's not exaggeration.
4,000 obviously.
4,000 have already pre-registered to come. We need every person to come. I always think to myself, it's not a competition, but you see some other, it's not a demonstration, by the way, it's not what it is. Uplifted, we see other, and they have 10, 20, 30,000 people. We want to have 10,000 Jews come together to show our solidarity and love for one another and love for Israel. So please, everybody make an effort to come. Don't be shy. Spread it out to your friends tonight, etc. And the other announcement is that YGP will be having tomorrow night after the event, so that's 5 till 6 at Princess Park. At YGP HQ, we'll be having once again schnitzels and l'chaim and filling club. So come along to that. That's going to be at 7 o'clock. A mini sort of nashi type of dinner with a little bit of praying, a little bit of